Cynthia Lum and Christopher Coper bring us this segment on crime prevention and counterterrorism. Now, since we've learned that terrorism, although certainly a unique category of violence, can be defined as a crime, and we are studying the entire topic from a criminal justice instead of a military or foreign policy perspective, it makes sense to evaluate the effectiveness of crime prevention strategies as they apply to counterterrorism. Now, certainly the disciplines of diplomacy, foreign policy, economic and political sanctions, military intervention, intelligence, technology-based tactics, and religion-based initiatives all play a valuable role in the overall struggle against international terrorism. But might the parallels between crime and terrorism lead us to consider time-proven crime prevention strategies as part of the overall puzzle? Traditionally, the criminal justice sector has taken multidisciplinary approaches to crime fighting and crime prevention. In his 9 principles, Sir Robert Peel, that famous founder of the London Metropolitan Police, identified that the basic mission of the police is the prevention of crime and disorder, and that the best test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and disorder, not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with it. Of course, any police action aimed at deterring crime must be balanced against constitutional limitations on police authority, as well as community and political support for our strategies. The authors in this chapter present a 3-dimensional model for evaluating and classifying crime prevention methodologies. Along the x-axis of their matrix is the strategic target. This ranges from the individual on the low end to groups, micro places, or individual locations like a grocery store or a bar or a club, the neighborhood at large, the entire jurisdiction, and then to the entire nation. And of course, in the case of terrorism, this could be expanded to include the entire international community. Now, the y-axis represents the specificity of the strategy, and it ranges from general to specific. And the z-axis is the level of proactivity, ranging from a reactive posture to a proactive and then to a highly proactive range. And by plotting any crime prevention strategy along these 3 axes, the criminal justice practitioner has a framework for evaluating and categorizing the approach. Now, in my experience, the reactive approach to law enforcement is the least effective in solving long-term problems that lead to crime and/or terrorism in this case. However, law enforcement will always be reactive to one degree or another due to the nature of crime. I mean, it's not legal to arrest someone for a crime they've not yet committed, at least not yet. Now, proactivity is more preventive and preemptive in nature. These are police-initiated strategies that can be highly effective in some cases, but counterproductive in others. Too much of these aggressive police-initiated tactics can actually undermine the trust-based relationships we're trying to establish with our citizens. And we've certainly seen this principle at work in our counterterrorism strategies abroad. Proactivity often has the effect of displacing as opposed to preventing crime, and it tends to alienate the very citizens we're trying to protect in the process. The coactive approach is relationship-based, and it's centered on co-opting public support and involvement in our law enforcement efforts and objectives. Essentially, it's the community policing model, but with a strong focus on the power of relationships. The authors advocate a 3-pronged method for applying their crime prevention matrix to counterterrorism. The first is to utilize the body of knowledge already established about the nature and occurrence of terrorism to determine what part of this 3-dimensional matrix might be most applicable to counterterrorism. Secondly, to utilize empirical data from outcome-based evaluations of crime prevention and counterterrorism strategies that have already been implemented. And thirdly, to consider the advantage and disadvantages of applying their crime prevention matrix to the discipline of counterterrorism. Now, in regards to the first prong, you've already begun your study into the underlying principles motivating terrorists and to understand their ideologies and operational methods. A full understanding is essential if we are to identify strategies and methodologies for interdicting and deterring terrorist acts. In terms of the second prong, although there is a significant body of knowledge on the effectiveness of various crime prevention programs, not much exists in the field of counterterrorism. This dearth of knowledge makes evaluation of strategies very challenging. Terrorism remains a very uncommon occurrence when compared to other types of crime, and the challenge is exacerbated by trying to measure a non-event. In other words, how is it possible to apply Sir Robert Peel's test of police efficiency, which is the absence of crime and disorder, to counterterrorism? I mean, it's difficult enough to measure how much crime was prevented versus trying to determine how many terrorist acts were averted due to a particular strategy. However, the effectiveness of both proactive and coactive police initiatives at preventing crime indicate that they should be effective at preventing terrorism as well. Many practitioners are reluctant, and this goes along with the third prong of their approach, when we evaluate the cost-benefit analysis. Many practitioners are reluctant to apply a cost-benefit analysis to counterterrorism strategies. The mindset being that preventing one act of terror is worth whatever the cost. And there's no question that terrorist acts by their very nature are catastrophic in scope. But there's a real limitation on the amount of time, treasure, and talent that any organization or any nation can devote to counterterrorism. Terrorism invokes strong emotions that can lead to an overreaction to the threat. The public fear and panic associated with a terrorist attack is exactly what the terrorists are after. And this serves to distort the rational calculation of cost and benefits associated with a particular counterterrorism strategy. An overreaching response is also what the terrorists are after. In this way, they seek to alienate a people against their own government, even if that government is seeking to ensure their safety. And there are other costs that have to be evaluated as well, like the potential loss of individual liberties and collective freedoms that can be threatened by overly aggressive counterterrorism strategies. As Benjamin Franklin is quoted as saying, "Those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety." And others have added to this, "and they will lose both liberty and safety." The authors end this chapter with a discussion of some of the ways future criminal justice practitioners might further develop the concept of applying their crime prevention matrix to the problem of international terrorism and homeland security, as well as developing other community-based preventive strategies and crime prevention initiatives aimed at countering terrorism. It's your generation that's going to be faced with that task.